Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. What is going on? Thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Tuesday, June 3rd, 8 a.m. on the dot. Greatly appreciate you guys being a part of the Sliwa show, part of Hoops Talk. Thank you for hanging out. We got a lot to get into today. Got a lot to get into. Already see comments are hot. They're hot already this morning. A lot going on this morning. People already got thoughts on everything. Got a fun show lined up for everybody. Thank you for hanging out. Let me give everyone a quick rundown of the show. I'm going to do that in 2 seconds. I got a quote, but then a lot of other people got quotes. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about. I'm going to read a couple of the quotes here, and then we'll get the show started. So thank you for hanging out. As always, please subscribe to the channel if you've yet to subscribe to the channel. Fun show yesterday. Enjoyed it with Dave McMenamin. If you missed any part of that show, go back to yesterday's show. You'll catch a good interview with Dave McMenamin today. I apologize. It's just me. It's just me. You guys have to listen to me for at least an hour. Minimum 1 hour, you got to listen to me. What an awful day. What an awful way to start your day. Okay, I got a quote here real quick. I'm going to put out to everybody, and then we'll read a couple quotes. Seiko on here has got some badass quotes. Once you replace negative thoughts with positive ones, you'll start having positive results. Once you replace negative thoughts with positive ones, you'll start having positive results. Really, really good quote right there. Clearly something I think we can all use. We can all use a little bit of advice when it comes to that. Start taking some of those negative vibes outside of your own head, and then just kind of see what you can do from there. Okay, I got I did mention I got a couple of other quotes here that I'm going to read off here real quick. Let me do that real quick. Let me give one quote here. Seiko, the successful excuse me here, guys. Successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. Okay, there was another one in here that I saw. This one I like from Seiko. When everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. All right, some phenomenal quotes right there. So if you guys got a quote you guys want to share with everybody, feel free to throw it in the chat. Let me give everyone just a quick idea of what we got going on for the show today. Got a lot, I got to be honest. Sometimes come into the show here and I'm just depends, right? Sometimes you got thoughts on certain topics that are out there. Other times there really isn't that many topics. Today, I got to be honest with you, got a lot of good topics coming in here. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time. There was a really good article yesterday on ESPN that was previewing the NBA Finals, and I want to spend a little bit of time on that and just kind of. Finals are going to start on Thursday. We'll talk a little bit about the Pacers and the Thunder, kind of the path of how these people got to where they got to, how both of these teams got here. I want to give a little bit of a prediction, too, what I do think is going to happen in the NBA Finals. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that as well. And then after that, honestly, a lot of this is going to be a little bit more Laker-centric. I think there are some good Laker topics that are out there, so we're going to hit on those. I got a few here. There was yesterday, there was something I thought that was interesting that came out just really in regards to Bronny James trying to find a way to crack the rotation, and that the Lakers are going to try to find a way to crack the rotation for him. I got some thoughts on that. I mean, this is very kind of simple for me. You earn your way into that rotation, and there's no other way to do it. So we'll spend a little time on Bronny and the couple quotes that we were getting yesterday. Bobby Marks did something this morning. Basically hit three things for the Lakers that they got to address this offseason. So I'll play that clip. I saw it this morning on Greeny's show. Alan Hahn, I think, mentioned something about Lakers should target Mitchell Robinson. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that. A lot of articles in these last maybe day and a half, and maybe this started because of an article that came on ESPN yesterday about the Lakers trying to acquire Jarrett Allen. There was also a quote from somebody who covers the Cavs basically saying that the Cavs they're open to doing business for Jarrett Allen, and maybe that wasn't the case in the past. So we'll do a little bit of that. Let's see what else we got here. That I put on here. Keep an eye out, and I know I mentioned this, keep an eye out what happens in the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yesterday, their president of basketball operations talked. When he talked yesterday, it was about trying to keep Naz Reid and Julius Randle and Alexander Walker. I don't think they're going to be able to keep all three of those guys. I think they'll definitely be able to keep two. So is there an opportunity for the Lakers? I keep seeing Alexander Walker's name come up, so maybe an opportunity there. And then just some NBA rumors out there. There's some rumors on Kevin Durant. I saw some stuff on Zion Williamson. We know his situation. Some stuff on Domantas Sabonis. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that as well. And I did also see Lakers put out their preseason schedule as well, at least 4 of the games they put out. So we got a lot to get into today. All right, let me read a couple of these comments here. Somebody here not crazy about me doing quotes. With that in mind, here's another quote. Opportunities are like sunrises. If you wait too long, you miss them. Let me do it. It might not be for everybody, but I got to be honest with you. I don't care. If there's a good quote out there and it's going to help somebody, I like reading some of these quotes. I'm going to read a couple in the morning. All right. You want to mute me for the first 30 seconds of the show because I have a quote? Do what you got to do. All right. Let me see a couple more here. Let's see what we got here. Before the show gets started, read off a couple of these. If Rob doesn't get a good big this summer, then I'll be convinced he hates bigs and undervalues them. Remember, he said it's a guards league. I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. I mean, he's going to do everything he can to try to grab a big. I mean, I think it's just so obvious of why the Lakers couldn't make any noise in the playoffs. It's so obvious how their roster is flawed. I'd have a very, very difficult time thinking that the man isn't going to try to go grab a big. All right, let me see if I could get one more in here before we get started. Consistent improvement is better than delayed perfection. All right, let's get the show started. Thank you very much for being here. Let's start off with this. I should be having somebody on. I'm not 100% sure. Sometimes booking guests, it could be it could play to your advantage. Other times it's a little bit more difficult. I may have somebody on tomorrow that covers the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'd really, really like to have him on. I just, obviously getting ready for the NBA Finals here. It'd be great to have some perspective of the two teams that are on and people that actually cover the team. So, previewing the NBA Finals. This is what I'm going to ask for people that are hanging out. They're on the chat. If you're watching this live, awesome. If you end up watching this, obviously down the road, I get a lot of views after the show is done. People that just can't watch it live. So you can feel free to put it in the comments or whatever. But I want to spend a few minutes. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because there are other topics that I do want to get into. But I'm going to give a little bit of an NBA Finals preview. The NBA Finals obviously start on Thursday. Indiana Pacers, Oklahoma City Thunder. I just want to spend a little time talking about both of these squads, how these squads got to where they got to. We'll give a little bit of a prediction of what we think is going to happen as well. And then I'll read some of your comments here. So if you guys got some thoughts on the NBA Finals, whether it's the Pacers or the Oklahoma City Thunder, if you want to tie it back to the Lakers, you can always figure out a way to tie it back of just kind of how far are the Lakers from a potential NBA Finals berth. Do they have a shot at all about making some noise? What are they going to have to do in the offseason in order to do so? So we could obviously, there's a ton of angles that we could take from a Laker perspective, but there was a really good article yesterday on ESPN on how both teams work their way to the NBA Finals. And I thought the article was really good too, because they also spent a second talking about how both teams were wildly, wildly disappointed that when the Christmas schedule came out, that both the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers were not going to be a part of the Christmas Day schedule. So, it's kind of funny. I always looked at Christmas games. I remember doing this and people didn't like it. I didn't really care, to be honest with you. There was a time I had a mic obviously on LA radio for a number of years. And every time when Lakers were going through just this awful stretch of Lakers basketball, this is before LeBron became a Laker. And Lakers were always still on Christmas Day games. I'm like, why are they on Christmas? I'm sorry, but a team that's X amount of games below 500 should not be on Christmas. I had the same beef with the Knicks when they were on there. I had the same beef when the Lions sucked or the Commanders sucked and they were on Thanksgiving. I'm like, I don't want to watch. Don't tell me tradition and it's a big franchise in this. Give me the good teams. I want to see the good teams on Christmas Day. And this past Christmas, the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder both didn't play on Christmas. And there was, part of this article, again, this was on ESPN, part of this article, which was kind of breaking down the NBA Finals, was talking about how both of these teams, especially the Thunder, were highly, highly disappointed that they weren't one of the teams highlighted on Christmas Day. Okay, season starts, Oklahoma City Thunder. I'll first do the Thunder, then I'll do the Pacers, and then, we'll give a little prediction what we think is going to happen in the finals. Oklahoma City Thunder, whether they played on Christmas or not, obviously everybody knew coming into the season, hey, this is one of the top teams in the NBA. Now, did you think they were going to win 68 games this year? No, I didn't think they'd win 68 games this year. They were phenomenal. Give them all the credit in the world. And everybody has kind of sat back and talked about the Oklahoma City Thunder and said that the problem with the Thunder is they don't have experience. Can you really take a team that serious, one of the youngest teams to ever be in the postseason? Can you really take a team that serious who's that inexperienced? All right, playoffs start. Swept the Grizzlies in round 1. Took out the Nuggets in 7. Wasn't an easy series. Kind of blew some games, but as the series went on, they actually started winning some of the close games, and then they blew them out in Game 7. Clearly a team that's got championship pedigree and they know how to win a championship. They took them out. Took out the Timberwolves in 5. They're the second youngest team to make the finals in NBA history. So whatever the questions were about the Oklahoma City Thunder, all that is now wiped away. They had some stats that were absurd. 4 wins by 30 points or more. It's the first time ever in playoff history that a team has ever done that. They by far had the best defense in the regular season and in the postseason. So the Oklahoma City Thunder, their path to get into the NBA Finals, I think no matter what they accomplish, there was always going to be some hesitation with them. It's like, okay, can they do it? Will they do it? I was reading something this morning. We all know the trade that the Oklahoma City Thunder, made to get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. What we forget is part of the trade that they made, they also got a ton of draft picks. One of those draft picks ended up being Jalen Williams. So what you can say is they traded Paul George for Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they're in the NBA Finals and could very well in 2 weeks win their first NBA championship in franchise history. So that's the path of how the Oklahoma City Thunder got to the NBA Finals. And whether you wanted to give them credit or not, I remember, even as watching a lot of these games and seeing the Lakers versus the Thunder in the regular season, those back-to-back matchups that they had. There's a lot of Laker fans saying, hey, if we match up against the Thunder, we'll take our chances. Look what we did against them in the regular season. Whatever happened in the regular season obviously doesn't mean anything in the playoffs. Perfect example is the Lakers winning 50 games, grabbing a number 3 slot, and then exiting week and a half, 2 weeks later, before May 1st even rolled around. Lakers were out of the playoffs. They were already planning their vacation. So clearly the regular season only has a certain amount. You can only take so much from the regular season. The postseason's a completely different animal. JJ Redick wasn't the same coach. The lack of size clearly hurt the Lakers. The lack of rebounding, the lack of defensive abilities, all that came back to haunt the Lakers. OKC gets to the NBA Finals. The Pacers, how'd they get there? 50 games. They won 50 games during the regular season. But something to keep in mind with Indiana, they were much better in the second half of the season. I think there was a point of the season they were hovering around 500, and then they just took off and had one of the best records in the NBA. So great second half of the season for the Pacers. They took out the Bucks in 5. They took out the 64-win Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games. They took out the Knicks in 6, who took out the Boston Celtics, and obviously were heavy favorites in that series. They got a championship pedigree head coach in Rick Carlisle, literally won a championship. What was that, in 2011? They got these wild comebacks that they were a part of through the course of the playoffs. Every round, they've had one win that just was like, no, that doesn't happen in the NBA, let alone in the playoffs, let alone 3 times in the NBA playoffs. They were down 7 with 40 seconds left against the Bucks in Game 5. They were down 7 with 50 seconds left versus the Cavs in Game 2. They were down 14 with 2 minutes and 51 seconds left versus the Knicks in game 1, and they won all 3 of those games. So a lot of the reason why the Pacers are here is because they have big-time comebacks, big-time wins. Their offense is incredible. They push the pace. They're very, very exciting to watch. And by the way, I think a little bit underestimated. They can lock down on defense to an extent. At least they got individuals that can lock down. But that just gives you kind of an idea, a path of how the Oklahoma City Thunder got to the NBA Finals, a path of how the Indiana Pacers got to the NBA Finals, and this is where we are coming into Thursday. I did look at one other thing. Head-to-head matchups between these two teams. December 26th, Thunder and the Pacers played each other. Thunder won 120-114. March 29th, they played each other. Thunder won 132-111. We all know that the Oklahoma City Thunder are heavy, heavy favorites coming into the NBA Finals. So, to be honest with you, for me, I really, really would like to see a game to just kind of see what this matchup looks like. But, that's not how it works. We'll just kind of make our prediction either way. I actually think this will be a better series than people think. I think this will be a closer series than people think. But I just have a difficult time going against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I'm going to pick OKC in 6. But I do think the Pacers are really good. I do think the Pacers can make some noise. And I do think the Pacers they got experience. They got guys that have been in the league. I mentioned they got a championship coach. So hopefully this is a NBA Finals that people aren't sitting back and a few games in have absolutely no interest and don't want to watch the series. I hope that just because it's 2 smaller markets, just because there aren't these marquee names, even though one of these players is literally the MVP of the league, I hope people are entertained by this series. I hope that this isn't a crater in the ratings for the NBA, because I think these are 2 fun teams that, deserve. They took different paths to get here and deserve to be here. So my prediction, I'll take OKC in 6. And I hope this is a closer series than people are making it out to be. Yesterday I was reading, I think I mentioned it to you guys while we were doing the show, some of the predictions that were out there. Let me see what it was. Oklahoma overwhelming. Thunder open as minus 750 favorites over the Pacers. Pacers open as plus 525 underdogs on Saturday. It's obviously a wide margin in OKC's favor, and we'll see what eventually happens. Okay, let me look at some of the comments here, and then we could go from there. I will say this again. My hope in doing this was kind of just to preview a little bit of the NBA Finals and give everybody a little bit of idea about the matchup that we got coming. But we also don't have a game coming until Thursday, so we'll still have a couple of more days, and we'll see. Like I said, if I could get a guest on that represents the Pacers and the Thunder, that'll be up to me to try to figure that part out, and we'll go from there. Let's see what we got here. Slee, the franchise won a championship while in Seattle. You are right about that. I guess I'm only looking at them from the lens of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And there's a good chance that Seattle's probably going to end up with another franchise down the road. So I'm just literally looking at it from that perspective. All right, let me see a couple more comments here. Let's see what we got here. Taking out the Knicks isn't a thing. I don't know. I disagree. I thought the Knicks on paper got a team. And Knicks did take out the Boston Celtics. And before Tatum got hurt, Celtics were about to go down 3-1 against the New York Knicks. I mean, listen, I'm the first one to try to dunk on the Knicks. I really don't care about the New York Knicks. I give the Pacers credit. I thought the Knicks were a pretty damn good team. And for them to take out Boston and then lose to the Indiana Pacers, I think taking out the Knicks does show something. Pacers' average age is only 1 year above OKC. Yeah, Tyrese is young. A lot of their Naismith, a lot of their other kind of pieces are young as well. I guess you could say, who are the veterans? Pascal Siakam has been there. He's won an NBA championship before. You can look at a guy like Miles Turner has been in the league for a while. Yeah, but for the most part, you're right that Indiana's also got a lot of young pieces as well. So two of the younger teams that are in the NBA Finals. OKC in 5. OKC 4, Pacers 2, but would like to see it go 7 games. Neither team has won a championship. Okay, this is kind of going back to the Thunder and the hope it goes 7. Hope it goes 6 or 7. And I don't care who wins. Yeah, there is, by the way, there is a little bit about do you really have kind of a dog in the fight? I could make a case for either team. And I think if the Indiana Pacers won a championship, that'd be a really cool story. I think if the Oklahoma City Thunder won a championship, that'd be a really cool story. Like I get it both ways. And I don't have a dog in the fight. I think I found myself really, really rooting for the Pacers against the Knicks. That I don't know. I just kind of enjoyed their style of basketball and watching them play. This will be a very atrocious ratings finals. Could be. From my perspective, and I said this before, just let me see some good basketball. And is what it is. There's going to be certain people that just love the NBA and they'll watch any matchup. And then there's going to be a lot of other people that's like, yeah, I'm not watching that. Curry's not in it. No, I don't care. LeBron's not in it. I don't care. Giannis, Jokic, I don't care. So you may very well get one of those breakdowns from a ratings perspective where it's awful. Now, this is the only thing that I think can change that if it's a good series. If the series is tied 2 apiece through 4 games, then you might actually have some ratings that show a little bit. Okay, I got some people here, OKC in 6. That's what I said as well. Let's see what we got here. Pacers upset would be amazing because the media wouldn't know how to handle it. All right, so at least, hopefully a little bit of that setup there gives you guys a little something, maybe a little bit more knowledge about the series, the head-to-head, how both teams got there, and we'll see what happens coming on Thursday. So if you guys got some more thoughts on the NBA Finals, feel free to bring it in, and I'm gonna kind of keep moving with some of the topics here. Cheers to you, by the way. What do we got here? Mountain Coffee in Lake Arrowhead. Phenomenal coffee. Phenomenal coffee. Lake Arrowhead. Jesus. The hell is Lake Arrowhead? The place is amazing. All right, let me give let's see, where are we going to go here? I'm going to go a little off topic because when I created these topics, there was a few things that came in kind of afterwards. I want to play something for everybody. Bobby Marks was on this morning, and Bobby Marks was on Greeny's show, Mike Greenberg. And he was spending a little bit of time talking about kind of what's going to be key for the Lakers this upcoming offseason. I want to spend a little bit of time on that. I'm going to play this video for everybody. And then I got that Bronny James stuff. We'll talk about Jarrett Allen. There's a few different things that I think we could play. So before I do so, let me get this all kind of queued up here. And I'll tell you guys the conversation real quick, and not kind of a shocking surprise, but ESPN was going through kind of the main teams. Hey, what should the Knicks do this summer? And what should the Golden State Warriors do? What should the Celtics do? And then Lakers, of course, come up as well. So ESPN trying to hit on kind of the key teams and the key franchises. Let me play this for everybody real quick. Take a listen to Bobby Marks, who obviously does a phenomenal job covering the NBA. Nice enough to join this show. He joined the show about a month ago or so. So he's been somebody that's been very nice with his time in the past as well. Here's Bobby Marks talking about what are their main priorities this offseason. Let's take a quick listen.
And of course, they get knocked out in the first round. So, Bobby, what do we expect their offseason to look like?
I expect them to be extremely aggressive this offseason, especially with LeBron likely going into, he's got 1 year left on his contract. I think there's 3 things here. You've got to take advantage of the $60 million in expiring contracts when you're looking at certainly players like Gabe Vincent and Rui Hachimura. The second thing is
I'm going to pause it here real quick. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to kind of each one of these bullet points I'm going to get into. All right, so take advantage of the expiring contracts. I think sometimes people might look at Rui, Maxi Kleber, Gabe Vincent, some of these contracts they're on the books and they're going to be off the books by next year. One of the most appealing things for teams in the NBA, of course, it just depends where the franchise is. They want to clear their books. They'll give you a contract. If you want a player and he's got 3 years left on his contract, but you value that player, and there's a team out there that's, yeah, we don't care. We're rebuilding. We just want to clear our cap. We want to clear our books. All of a sudden, a contract like Rui or Gabe Vincent or Maxi Kleber, I'm just naming guys off because those are all expiring contracts that I know that the Lakers have. You got to take advantage of that. Bobby Marks is mentioning there's value in those players because they are expiring contracts. So something to keep in mind in regards to that. So yes, granted, the Lakers don't have a ton of assets. They don't have a ton of draft capital. Austin Reaves seems like the biggest asset that the Lakers have that they'd be willing to move from if there's the right player out there. But having expiring contracts is of benefit, and we'll see how the Lakers navigate that this summer. Keep taking a listen.
They showed their hand at the trade deadline, and when they made that Mark Williams trade that wound up failing him on his physical, they are going to go out and get a center this offseason. We'll see how that goes. You've got 1 first-round pick to do that. And then the third thing is keep an eye on August 2nd. That is when Luka is eligible to sign that extension. So you're trying to build for the now, but I think you also have to have an eye for the future when eventually LeBron does retire here.
So that's an interesting piece of this to me, Alan, is that
I'm going to let this play here for a quick second, but those are the 3 things that he mentioned. Take advantage of the expiring contracts. Obviously, get a starting center. He said they showed their hand. Obviously, this isn't a secret. Everybody knows this. The Lakers, they got nothing until they go get a big. There's no noise to be made. And then he said the Luka Doncic extension, which I think everybody just assumes Luka's going to sign an extension August 2nd. We go from there. The one piece that I will say, and I want to play one more piece of this because Greeny says something, Alan Hahn says something that I think is worth talking about. The one other thing he mentioned is you're trying to compete now, but you're also trying to build for the future. Is that possible? I mean, can you really do that? Yesterday I played I read a quote, Danny Green, basically saying that he doesn't like the formula the Lakers have. He doesn't believe in the LeBron and Luka formula when LeBron is 40 plus years old. I threw out a scenario that really the only way LeBron and Luka can win a championship together, you better be trading another asset, all your assets really, to go get a true big that now becomes the second best player on your team. So LeBron slides down and he's basically your third option. Is that realistic? Probably not. But that trying to build for the future and also trying to compete for a championship now, you know how difficult that is? Like, I don't really know of too many teams that have the ability to do that or successfully do that. Let me play the final clip here, and then I'll look at some of your comments.
that you've got Tatum is what he is, right? He's a young player. He had a catastrophic injury, but he'll be back, and, knock on wood, he'll be great. With the Lakers, you have to both have a plan to try and win the title next year, which feels within grasp, and also have something put together for what will then become Luka's Lakers into the future.
I'm not even worried about that. Like, I'm not.
You're just winning next year.
This is your window right now. You still have LeBron James. With those 2 guys, you have a chance to win a championship because of their greatness together. What you can control is the most important need on this roster is a center. So they tried Mark Williams. He would have been a great fit. For whatever reason, that didn't happen. But I expect that they're going to be calling every single team that has a big man. And here in New York, they should be calling the Knicks about Mitchell Robinson. If the Knicks are trying to get assets, if they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their roster going forward, maybe even need to save money, perhaps that's a team that that's a guy the Lakers should be targeting. He would be a perfect fit on that team.
It's so funny. And it's a good clip right there. I mean, whether you guys are, however you guys look at that clip, I do think there's a little bit of like, all right, there's from my perspective, there's like such desperation of the Lakers trying to get a big. I don't care who it is. I mean, if you were watching the Knicks, I was watching all those games between the Knicks and the Pacers. Watched most of them against the Celtics as well. Mitchell Robinson was a nice player. Definitely a player that offensive rebounds, can fill a need. He's also got weaknesses. You can foul Mitchell Robinson, take him to the free throw line. You can almost kind of play him off the floor. So it's not that he's the perfect center, but doesn't it just seem like any center anybody mentions, it's like, we'll take him. Yeah. It doesn't matter what it is. You feel like you can't be greedy by any stretch of the imagination. And that's going to be part of the challenge, obviously, for the Lakers. I think the main thing to kind of take away with what Bobby Marks said was, yes, you got to go try to get a big, but how can you use your expiring contracts to your advantage? And then, I thought they were a little too optimistic of like, yeah, they could compete for an NBA championship. If you got LeBron and Luka, that's all you need. I mean, obviously the Lakers really, really, really have to figure out, really got to figure out the rest of their roster, and we'll see how they're able to do that. But Bobby Marks kind of breaking down the three things that he thinks the Lakers are going to need the most this upcoming summer. There was an article yesterday, and I think I actually even mentioned it. There are a couple things here that I want to mention, and it's about Jarrett Allen. So Jarrett Allen, obviously part of the conversation today. I put it in my topics. I put it in the rundown and everything else. Again, here's another player that I'm not telling you there's a ton of rumors and, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. But ESPN did something yesterday that maybe they don't typically do. They just kind of shot some trade ideas, options out there. And a lot of it was based around Cooper Flag and what the Mavs are going to do with Cooper Flag. And all of a sudden, Jarrett Allen became a piece that would come to the Lakers. Let's spend a second on that. I would probably pay less attention to this if I didn't see this article out there. There's somebody who covers the Cavs, Cleveland.com's Chris Fedor, recently relayed on the Wine and Gold Talk podcast that the Cavaliers seem more willing to entertain or at least consider possibilities for Jarrett Allen than they have in the past. So I think as the Cavs try to improve their roster, they obviously got Evan Mobley. They got some big men. I think there were some times that they weren't even using Jarrett Allen in the postseason. How do they compete? They won 64 games, and then they were out in the second round of the Pacers. What do they do? How do they not rebuild their team, but what changes do they make in the offseason? And the fact that podcast from somebody who covers the Cavs says that they're more willing to entertain or at least consider possibilities for Jarrett Allen than they have in the past kind of sparked the conversation for me of like, all right, well, then a lot of these articles that I'm seeing out there that has a little bit of some of the conversation in regards to Jarrett Allen. Let me show you guys that article from yesterday. So ESPN yesterday is it a little bit of a pipe dream? Sure. But I'm going to show it anyways. This is the way ESPN was looking at it. They were saying that if the Dallas Mavericks actually were to make a move and not draft Cooper Flag, one of those scenarios had Jarrett Allen landing with the Lakers. So how did we get there? Let me show everybody this real quick. This was, by the way, on the front of ESPN yesterday. So if you guys see the article, one was, obviously the Mavs keeping the number one pick. And then they did 3 trade scenarios. I'm not going to get in all of them, to be honest with you. One of them was pairing Cooper Flag with Victor Wembanyama, getting some other draft assets, this and that. Okay, leave that to the side. I think if the Dallas Mavericks trade Cooper Flag, they're going to be trading him for a real player because according to Nico Harrison, they would be trying to, obviously compete right now. I don't think they're going to trade Cooper Flag, by the way. Here's one of the trade scenarios that ESPN threw out there. Okay, so let's just all kind of look at this together, and this is why I'm tying Jarrett Allen back to the Lakers. Cavs form a new star trio in Flag, Mobley, and Garland. Dallas Mavericks get Donovan Mitchell, a 31 first-round pick, some other picks as well, most of those coming from the Lakers. Cavs get the number 1 pick, which they would obviously draft Cooper Flag. Couple Lakers on here as well, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, and PJ Washington, and center Daniel Gafford. And then the Lakers would get Jarrett Allen. And the only other team involved in this is the Chicago Bulls. Dalton Knecht and Caleb Martin go out as well. They end up with the Chicago Bulls. From just a Laker perspective, Lakers give up their 2031 draft pick. They give up Dalton Knecht. They give up Gabe Vincent. They give up Maxi Kleber. And basically, when the dust settles, they end up with Jarrett Allen. That's a wild trade right there. Donovan Mitchell goes to the Dallas Mavericks. A lot of moving parts. Do I think that the Dallas Mavericks fan base and that franchise will allow them to do anything other than draft Cooper Flagg? Probably not. I think the only scenario out there is literally Cooper Flagg has to be a Dallas Maverick because just because of the scenario of them obviously trading who they did trade and the fact that they trade Luka Doncic. Do I see any path that has the Lakers and the Mavs making another trade together? Not in the near future. I will say this, that every scenario that you see out there, doesn't it just feel like if the Lakers can just somehow find a way to get the right big, it just kind of changes the entire scope of what you think about the Lakers? And whether that's Jarrett Allen or whether that's you pick the player that it is. I mean, I've said this before. I'm not trading for Jarrett Allen or Nick Claxton or any of these guys and using Austin Reaves. I think that would not. I don't think that would be a good idea. But I am finding a way, any shape, way, or form, to try to find a big with keeping Austin Reaves on this team. If you're trading Austin Reaves, then you better be getting a player that you know is going to be playing with Luka for the next, hopefully 5 years or so. Wild trade scenarios out there. Obviously, there's that's kind of the time of the year that we're in as well. People start speculating. You start throwing some things out there, and you see what eventually sticks. I will say, I don't think Mavs are going to make a move. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're trading anybody. I don't think Cooper Flagg's going to be going anywhere. But it is kind of a little wild that ESPN's putting that out there. Hey, let's throw out some different trade scenarios. One of them's got Jarrett Allen going to the Lakers. Great trade for the Lakers, but it's not happening. Okay, see another one here. Let's see. I'm actually excited for the finals. Finally, the young guys are coming to the forefront. It's about time. Tired of Steph. I got to be honest. I'm tired of a lot of these same players over and over again as well. All right, let me see another one here. Don't be desperate. Be smart of who you get. Yeah, listen, if I could be honest with everyone, if you're trading your first rounder and you're trading Dalton Connect and a couple expiring contracts, and you got the center that you think you need, and Austin Reaves didn't go, I don't think that's desperate. I think what's desperate is you traded, Austin Reaves and a draft pick, and you got a center that really isn't going to be a difference maker for the next few years. It doesn't really move the needle all that much. And then you lose a really talented player in Austin Reaves. That to me would be desperate. That to me would fall a little bit more along the lines of desperate. Competitive or collective bargaining agreement, it's the rules of the aprons and all that. A couple other players. Let me read a couple more of these comments here, and then I'm going to get to a couple more of the comments out here. Slee, you think? No, I don't. I don't think they'll revisit that Mark Williams trade. If you didn't make that trade before the trade deadline, it just kind of makes no sense to revisit it. Mark Williams was already throwing out laughing emojis the moment Lakers were eliminated from the play. I think that's over. Now, if you tell me, do I think Dalton Connect's part of the Lakers' future? I tell you, no, that's not the case. Is that 2031 pick that the Lakers have, is that going to be a part of the future? No, I don't think that's going to be the case. But I do believe that they'll definitely make a move for a big. I think whatever the Mark Williams idea and concept was, I do think those days are over. I don't think that's going to be happening. All right, let me see another one here. I was listening a little bit yesterday. So Tim Conley, who's the president of basketball operations for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think they were doing their exit interviews yesterday. And I would just say this: keep an eye on the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're in that second apron. They're one of the few kind of second apron teams out there. And they got to figure out how to kind of cut some costs here because of how, obviously expensive it is. That's part of the reason why they traded Karl Anthony Towns when they did. But keep an eye out because I keep seeing Nickeil Alexander Walker's name come up. Obviously, Naz Reid is a name that everybody's keeping an eye on. Julius Randle, they got to figure out what they're going to do in regards to paying him. And I don't think they traded Karl Anthony Towns to just let Julius Randle walk or, let Julius Randle go somewhere else. I think they're going to do everything they can to keep him. But keep an eye out for the Minnesota Timberwolves, because there was a quote yesterday. Here's what Tim Conley said. He said, the goal is to keep everybody when it comes to bringing back Randle, Reid, and Alexander Walker. He said, what's neat is all these players are very happy here. They love the coaching staff. They love the teammates. They love the community. When the player wants to be here and the team wants to have them back, there's always room for optimism. That sounds all great and dandy, but eventually you're going to get your agents involved, and eventually these players are going to make decisions. They're going to try to get paid. If you're Nickeil Alexander Walker, you only get so many opportunities to go grab a good check. If you're Naz Reid, you got value in the NBA. Certainly he has value. Can one of these players potentially crack through the Minnesota Timberwolves and become available? I mean, I think for the Lakers, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to try to use that mid-level exception and go try to target Nickeil Alexander Walker. Probably around $14 million a year, something along those lines. I saw favorites to sign Naz Reid. I saw the Golden State Warriors on the top of that list. These were some of the betting odds there. So, I mean, Minnesota, and by the way, there are also rumors out there that Minnesota might try to go big game hunting and see if they could go get Kevin Durant and pair him up with Anthony Edwards and go take their chances. So, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure Anthony Edwards is happy. Just keep an eye out for the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's all I'll say. I'll say that if there's one thing that the Minnesota Timberwolves, especially when you start seeing a front office person that's, sitting back and they're saying to themselves, well, they want to be here and they love being here and we love them being here. Are you getting paid or not? I mean, we all understand the NBA is a business, and it kind of doesn't matter whether you like your situation or not. Eventually, you're only going to get a few opportunities, especially if you're those types of players where you're not a superstar. If you can cash in, you got to cash in. Can the Lakers maybe take advantage of one of those predicaments or situations? The Nickeil Alexander Walker situation? Can they take advantage? Can they put themselves in a position where they can just outright sign a 3-and-D guy that they could bring on the team that they, obviously desperately need, a good wing, and then go make a trade for a big while still holding on to Austin Reaves? Now you're having now the conversation is completely different than it was coming into the offseason. So see what happens. But these players are going to get paid. And the question is going to be, I don't know how much Minnesota is going to have that chance to hold on to some of these players. All right. I'm going to look at some of the comments here real quick. We'll take a quick look here. Let's see what we got here. Naz leaving if somebody pays him. Of course he is. Why wouldn't he? By the way, you blame Naz Reid? He was already on a really, really favorable contract. Let's see this one. Nickeil Alexander Walker earning 2 years, $9 million. He's going to get paid. Yeah, these guys are definitely going to get paid. Brian Jackson, what is the love affair with Austin Reaves? I don't know if you mean me specifically or you just mean, Laker fans in general. I'll tell you what the love affair is. He came out of nowhere. He has earned a very, very valuable contract in the NBA. He put up 20 points a game during the regular season, still was able to get you about, 5 rebounds and 4 assists, something along those lines. They don't really call that many plays for him. He's a good player. That's it. I mean, I don't think there's anything more. The reason why a lot of people were upset at Austin Reaves in the playoffs is because he all of a sudden became a player that you had real expectations for. And he didn't meet those expectations. But he's a good player. I mean, I don't think it's a love affair. I just think that, I think there's a lot of people out there that like his style and think that, if he could be a part of the future, then he's probably going to be a part of the future. But he's about to get paid too. Now, maybe there's a way to sell high, and if that's the case, then that's the case. All right, let me see a couple of these comments here. But that, I mean, to answer your question, I think that is part of the reason why there is a lot of love for him. And by the way, I don't even think there's that much love for him. I think there's a lot of Laker fans out there from the vibe that I get in regards to Austin Reaves. A lot of Laker fans out there that are like, all right, well, you got to shop him. You got to shop him. You can't play. And I think a lot of people feel this way probably more since they got Luka. And once they got Luka, it's like, all right, well, you're not winning a chip with Luka and Austin Reaves in the backcourt. So I think that's also been a part of the conversation. All right, let me read a couple more comments here. Rebounding and toughness is what we need. Getting rid of Caruso should be a reason why we shouldn't give up on our players. Okay, let's see some more here. AR for 6-man. A lot of people want to see Austin Reaves come off the bench. Austin is good, but being next to Luka is a mistake. Him and Luka don't go together. I get it. By the way, I'm not sitting here arguing it. Yesterday I put out a video yesterday. Let me actually see if I could get some of the reaction to this. It's crazy. Of all the videos I put out, the ones by far that get the most interaction, a lot of people commenting, a lot of people with a strong opinion on, it's Austin Reaves. I mean, that's the one. Let me see if I could find this here. I want to look this up real quick. I was looking this up earlier. Yesterday, I had Dave McMenamin on, right? So Dave McMenamin comes on, and one of our topics was Austin Reaves. Okay, have the Austin Reaves conversation. What did that create? There's all these different comments instantly that Lakers have an opinion on in regards to Austin Reaves. Last week, I put something out and said that, hey, I'm not trading Austin Reaves for these centers. And there's, 100 comments about what the Lakers should trade Austin Reaves for, how Austin Reaves wouldn't work on the Lakers moving forward, and how you already got the best that you can get from Austin Reaves. Go make a move for Austin Reaves. People got an opinion on Austin Reaves, and I don't think they're all positive. So I don't, to go back to one of the other comments that was there earlier about a lot of people having, this infatuation with Austin Reaves. I don't think that's the case. I think there's a lot of people that are very critical on Austin Reaves. Very critical, not about Austin Reaves, but the fit with Austin Reaves on the Lakers. So I think that also has a lot to do with it as well. So something to keep in mind here as we continue to kind of get through the offseason. All right, shout out to my guy. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Shout out to our partnership here on YouTube. Shout out to him being a friend of mine for the last 5 years and was advertising with me when I was over at 710 ESPN. And then I kind of go off and do my own thing. And here he is with me as well. So shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. If you or somebody has been in a serious injury, a wrongful death case, there are a lot of injury attorneys that are obviously representing people out here in the state of California. I mean, you drive around just LA. I mean, billboard after billboard. There are injury attorneys everywhere. I'll just tell you this. If you want one of the best in the business, maybe he's not out there trying to scream in front of your face or anything along those lines. Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, that's the real deal. Somebody, like I mentioned, he can help anybody in the state of California. We created a URL, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. You can get an absolutely free consultation by just going to that website. I hope you guys are never in a situation where you need Brad Wallace. I hope you or a family member is never caught up in something where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe this happened to my family. I got insurance that's just wants me to settle, and I know that I'm not getting what I properly deserve and what I should be awarded. That's where somebody like Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm come into play. So I've given the example already about a case about a month ago. He went up against Home Depot, and the $4.6 million verdict that he had on behalf of the Wallace firm's client. He can help you if you're in a predicament or situation. I hope nobody ever is, but things happen in life. And I could make a personal introduction to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm as well. wallacewins.com/Sliwa, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for his partnership here on the channel. Okay, so I did mention this. There was an article in, an article that came out in regards to Bronny James. So let me spend a few minutes on this real quick, and then we'll come back to some of these other comments as well. All right, let me just see here. Let me see here. Just trying to look here. All right. Yeah, we got basically through all those comments on the Austin Reaves stuff that I was talking about. Okay, let me share something in regards to Bronny James, and then real quick on the Lakers preseason schedule that came out, and then a couple rumors around the NBA, and then we're going to call it a day. So I saw this on Hoops Hype, and Hoops Hype, again, is one of my go-to places to go to. Push James to be part of the rotation. I saw that. I was like, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? So I was like, all right, let me take a look at this. And there was an article out there, Athlon Sports, but I'm going to read it. This basically was coming from a Western executive out there. And let me read some of the quotes that came out here. I don't think there's any doubt that their plan, talking about the Lakers, I know the guys get a lot of grief because of who his dad is, but we've seen a lot of tape on Bronny, and the fact is he was a lot better player in April than he was in October, and definitely in July. So obviously as the season progressed, he was a lot better. The quote continues to say, he's 20 years old. This is a Western Conference executive. He had a whole year where his development was thrown all out of whack, but he can defend the perimeter and showed he could shoot the three. If he can show that wasn't a fluke, he's going to start getting 10 to 15 minutes a night because the team is going to feel like they can trust him. I think he's going to do all that. He's going to be a regular for them next year. Okay. So this is talking about Bronny James. Like I said, this is a Western Conference executive that these quotes are coming from, obviously unnamed. And the idea is that Bronny James predicted to land a new Lakers role ahead of next season, and that he'll get more opportunities than he did this past year. Let me just say this here real quick about Bronny. First off, I think how the season started and the storyline with Bronny James, a little bit of a distraction. Eventually, as the season went on, less of a distraction. In the G League, when he was playing for the South Bay Lakers, let me give you some numbers here. These are real numbers. He averaged 22 points a game, shot 44% from the field, 38% from three. Those are great numbers in the G League. And I'm not telling you that the G League numbers are going to translate to the NBA, but there were nights where Bronny James was balling out in the G League. So give the man credit. As far as him next season getting real minutes and real opportunities, as far as him getting 10 to 15 minutes a night, as far as him playing in meaningful minutes in games and, in a critical game where they're like, hey, let's throw Bronny James in there. There's only really one scenario that plays out where I think it's justified and it's okay. Is he playing well? Listen, I don't care if his last name is James. If he's playing well, then give the man his playing time. If he's an asset to the Lakers, give him opportunities. If he's not, and he's still getting those opportunities, and he's still getting chances to play for the Lakers, and it doesn't make any sense, then obviously we got a problem. And I the one thing that I will say, I think with Laker fans and whether it's podcasts like this or other YouTube shows or just the media in general or radio stations or national media, whatever the case is, you're not going to really play Bronny and he's not deserving it, and it's just going to go under the radar. That's not going to happen. So if Bronny is getting minutes next year, 10 minutes a game, 15 minutes a game, then a couple things have to be happening. Then that means, hey, you know what? The guy's a decent enough player on the defensive side, and he's a threat to maybe just be a threat from the outside or just score enough to where he deserves the playing time. Then I don't think anybody's really going to have a problem with it. The only problem you're going to have, and again, I don't think this is something that you could just, well, no one's going to really notice. Give Bronny 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That ain't going to happen. If Bronny's getting minutes over players that are better than him, then everywhere you turn, you're going to hear about it. I mean, it's not like I'm not going to mention it. It's not like radio stations out there that are covering the Lakers or just, national media is just going to pretend like it's not happening. If Bronny James isn't playing well and he's getting minutes, yeah, that's a problem. If Bronny James take the last name off the back of his jersey is an asset to the Lakers, then he should get minutes. Like, it's kind of, to be honest with you, it's pretty simple. And it's not like Bronny James, if you go back, like I said, what he was doing with the South Bay Lakers, it's not like he was doing nothing. Bronny James was putting up numbers in the South Bay, in the G League. And I'm not telling you that that's going to equate to all of a sudden he's going to be a great player in the NBA. What I'm saying is there's some really good players in the G League. And if he's putting up real numbers against the G League, okay, he's only 20 years old. Let's kind of see what that could potentially be in the NBA. But it's not like I'm sitting here holding my breath and saying, the Lakers, they got Bronny James. And because they got Bronny, maybe they don't have to make a certain move in the summer because they can depend on Bronny's growth. I don't think that's the case. So we'll see what eventually happens. I think it's an interesting article. I think, those are interesting quotes. But at the end of the day, yeah, Bronny's going to get playing time only because he's an asset to the Lakers. And if Bronny's getting playing time and he doesn't deserve it, there's going to be a lot of microphones that are out there that are basically saying, yeah, that's BS. Yeah, you can't be playing this guy. Yeah, why are you picking this guy over that guy? All right, let me take a look at some of the comments here, and we'll go from there. Let's see what he's got here. Austin came out of the G League. Guys, a lot of players that are rotational players in today's NBA came out of the G League. So it's not unheard of to see guys develop in the G League. The only problem I had last year, I wanted him in the G League more just to continue to get his development. But Bronny really wasn't a distraction this past year. And it wasn't going to be Bronny's fault. It was more LeBron's fault. LeBron technically would be creating that distraction. The Lakers front office would be creating that distraction. I've come out a couple times and said, I feel bad for Bronny because this guy's being put in a situation where it's like it's a no-win situation. First year is out of the way. Bronny showed some glimpses in the G League that, he just needs time to develop. And then we'll see what he eventually does. I think this is a good example. You can also have players like Jalen Hood-Schifino that were picked top 20 and were absolutely no asset to the Lakers. So it's not necessarily where you were picked. It's what you can do. So we'll obviously see how that comes out to play. Bronny over Goodwin. Goodwin should be getting those minutes. Bronny is just a name and money. No question about it. Goodwin over Bronny James. I was upset during the playoffs that Goodwin didn't get opportunities. I was upset that, JJ Redick was so caught up in his own world that he wasn't giving more opportunities to a guy like Jordan Goodwin. So I'm with you on that. Let's just say the minutes got to be earned. That's it. That's all this comes down to. It's very, very simple. The minutes got to be earned. I don't hate Bronny. I just don't want to hear about him. If he can be Caruso in several years, great. But the oxygen is lost on something better to talk about. Here's the good news, Daniel. I don't feel like I spent a lot of time talking about him. I don't. I mean, this is the first time since you go back to, I want to see the last time I mentioned Bronny James. Honestly, I don't even remember. I don't remember. And maybe what you're referring to is maybe there's other shows that, talk about him, whatever the case is. But I don't think Bronny has been that much of a conversation nor a distraction. That's my opinion. The topic of Bronny, not Bronny himself, but the topic of Bronny. Now, if I was on here every day and I was bringing up Bronny James, that's a different conversation. Slee, Bronny plays good on ball defense, had a nice jump shot, plays hard, and doesn't pout. Not sure what people in here are seeing. Will he be a star? Probably not, but he'll be a very good player. Peter, here's the thing. I got no idea what he's going to be. I got no idea. What you do in the G League doesn't mean you're going to be successful in the NBA. Maybe Bronny James is really good in 3 or 4 years and it's not on the Lakers. That could also happen. Bronny could be on the Lakers, and then the moment LeBron retires, Bronny ends up somewhere else and maybe under the radar has, has a lot more success. I don't know. I genuinely don't. But anyways, that was a conversation that I saw, and, I'll kind of leave it at that. And I appreciate you guys throwing in the comments here. At the end of the day, if Bronny's going to get opportunities, it's got to be earned, period. And if it's not earned, a lot of microphones are going to be talking about it. It's not something that can be swept under the rug. Okay, I got a couple NBA rumors that I'm going to throw out there, and then we're going to call it a day. The Lakers, by the way, did I saw this yesterday. They announced their at least 4 of the preseason games. So who do they got? They're playing who are they playing? They got Phoenix, they got Golden State, they got Dallas, which is an interesting one. And they got the Sacramento Kings. So coming up in October, we got a long way to go. There's still a couple more games that they're going to announce, but preseason 2025, the Lakers got a couple games lined up in October. Suns, Warriors, Dallas, and the Sacramento Kings, so nothing too crazy there. As far as a couple of the rumors go, saw this morning, Kevin Durant. The Phoenix Suns have reportedly lowered their asking price for Kevin Durant. Phoenix is aggressive in pursuit of A, trading Kevin Durant, and B, regaining full control of their draft capital, starting with the number 10 pick in next month's draft, team sources said. Since the conclusion of the season, Houston has fielded several calls from Phoenix, who have since gradually lowered their asking price for Durant, those sources said. There is a price where the Rockets would be interested, but with a fear of breaking up their roster for a 36-year-old coming off an injury, doubts remained over a deal materializing. I think the only thing we do know about Kevin Durant, he's not going to be playing for the Phoenix Suns. I did see something where Devin Booker is kind of a part of the coaching search for the Phoenix Suns, not Kevin Durant. So KD probably not going to be a part of the mix moving forward. The only other things that I saw here, this kind of just piles on to a few different things. I don't know if you guys saw some of this stuff. Let me see here. I don't know if you guys saw some of this stuff in regards to Zion. Let me see if I could find it here. Zion, basically, what they're saying is his value in the league right now is almost kind of diminishing. And we kind of know, you saw some of the legal stuff that he's involved in right now and everything else. So we'll see what happens to Zion Williamson, but certainly not looking like it did maybe a couple years ago in regards to Zion. Let me read the quote here. There will be teams who do not care, but those teams who do not care need to be sufficiently desperate. 1 and 2, they're not going to give you anything of value. So you're going to get really bad contracts and likely no picks. But if you do get a pick, it's a late pick. They're talking about Zion Williamson. Teams likely to offer bad contracts and no picks for Zion Williamson. Damn, how the mighty have fallen. Last thing I'm going to mention here real quick. We saw yesterday that the Raptors and the Milwaukee or Giannis Antetokounmpo have some mutual interest. There was a story out here today that the Raptors have no interest in Domantas Sabonis. There was, I guess, some rumors around Sabonis. They got no interest in that. They're probably setting their eyes on the bigger prize, which is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay, let me read a couple of the comments here, and we'll keep things rolling here. Actually, we won't keep things rolling here. We'll call it a day after this. Been seeing a lot of Cat for Durant trade rumors. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see what we got here. I agree. I didn't mean it was Bronny's fault. Just saying the media puts a spotlight on him because of who his father is. No question. By the way, you don't have to apologize. I think we understand where you're coming from. Obviously the conversation typically about Bronny more ties back into LeBron. So I get all that. But it's kind of crazy, as I just kind of went into a few of the trade rumors. KD ain't going to be a Sun. Will he end up joining Houston? Zion, that's kind of interesting how all of a sudden he's basically up for grabs. Where's Giannis going to go? I mean, just we got so many different things that can happen between now and by the time free agency starts. So should be fun. All right, my people. That's all I got for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show, and looking forward to coming back and seeing you guys tomorrow morning. Hopefully by then, I really want to try to get, like I said, I'm going to be trying to get somebody on either with the Pacers or the Thunder. We'll see if we're able to do that by tomorrow. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Thank you for being here, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys all tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesday, and have a good rest of your morning as well.